Dr. K.L., Principal Secretary, Department of Industries and Non-Resident Keralite Affairs, Government of Kerala. Ladies and gentlemen who have tuned in, thank you for taking the time to be with us this afternoon on this session regarding the potential for enhancing exports from Kerala, organized by the Export-Import Bank of India, or Exim Bank for short. Today's webinar comes at a time when the Indian economy is facing unprecedented challenges amid slowing global trade, volatile commodity prices, tighter financial conditions in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, and so on. The crisis has highlighted the need to manage vulnerabilities and build resilience against potential shocks, while addressing the structural constraints to growth, strengthening and diversifying international trade and investment. In this regard, the narratives of Atmanirbhar Bharat and local to global are indeed timely, placing international trade at the focal point of both these visions. As participants on this call, on this webinar would be aware, under the federal architecture of India's governance, foreign trade related matters are handled by the central government, whereas the actual production of goods and services, as well as trade facilitation, happens at the state level. Recognizing the need for interventions at the state level for export promotion, Exim Bank has been periodically undertaking state-level research studies and has also been organizing seminars for discussing and disseminating the opportunities for exports, the challenges faced by exporters, as also the strategies which could be adopted for enhancing exports from the states. Today's webinar on enhancing exports from the very important state of Kerala marks yet another step in the multilayered cooperation of Exim Bank at the state level. As my colleague mentioned, we have recently conducted a study on promoting exports from Kerala, insights and policy perspectives, thanks to the good offices of Mr. Elangovan and the government of the state of Kerala. The key findings of this study will shortly be shared by my colleagues in today's webinar. The study has taken an essential first step of evaluating the performance of exports from Kerala over the recent years, analyzing the key aspects of export competitiveness in the international market, and thereafter, based on a thorough analysis comprising both desk research as well as inputs from a survey of exporters, it seeks to identify major challenges for exporters from the state of Kerala and recommends pertinent strategies that would alleviate these concerns. Kerala, as many of you would be aware, has emerged as a key contributor to India's macroeconomic growth and exports. Our study notes that Kerala's merchandise exports have witnessed a steady upsurge in the recent years, in fact representing a compound annual growth rate of no less than 17.9%, 17.9% between 2013-14 and 2018-19. This is a phenomenal rate of growth. In fact, it is significantly higher than the corresponding CAGR of just about 1% registered in India's total merchandise exports during the same period. So Kerala has actually been showing the way to the rest of India in growing exports. The latest data indicate that exports from Kerala amounted to just over $10 billion during 2019-20. At the same time, we should observe that while the growth rate has been highly creditable, Kerala currently contributes to just about 3.2% of India's total merchandise exports. Additionally, the exports from Kerala are concentrated in a few relatively lower value added products and small geographies. For example, jewelry made of gold and other precious metals accounts for more than half of Kerala's total merchandise exports. Kerala is also an important exporter of a large number of agro-based products. It accounts for more than 60% of Indian exports of natural rubber, almost 50% of India's total exports of cashews, 13% of India's spice exports, and similarly 13% of India's tea exports. But the share of relatively value-added and processed agricultural goods is relatively smaller. There are, of course, other major export items from Kerala, including marine products, petroleum products, ready-made garments, especially of cotton, rubber products, handmade carpets, and several others. Importantly, the export capabilities of the state of Kerala go well beyond the merchandise sector and extend to the services sector as well. As many of you would know, India consistently runs a deficit on the merchandise trade account, except for the latest period, but we consistently run a surplus on services, which helps to bring down the current account deficit. In this connection, the reputation of Kerala as a preferred destination for a spectrum of tourist services ranging from ecotourism right up to medical tourism is established all around the world. The services sector of tourism, IT and IT-enabled services, as well as healthcare, generated over $2 billion in export revenues during 2018-19. Notwithstanding the recent growth in exports, there remains substantial untapped potential for exports from Kerala. The Exim Bank study suggests that the size of the untapped export potential is $6.7 billion. Now compare this with the exports actually registered of a little over $10 billion or the services exports of $2.2 billion, and it shows the importance of generating those additional exports by addressing the problems. Realizing this potential could increase merchandise exports to nearly 16.5 million. Kerala could easily target to achieve almost $50 billion of exports by 2024-25 using these strategies. Where does Exim Bank come in? Exim Bank has conducted a series of webinars in building up not only exports from states, but across merchandise categories as well. We have established ourselves as an institution trying to facilitate macro level policy changes through inputs to stakeholders, while also engaging in micro level interventions to support businesses in their global efforts. Several of our flagship programs are well known across India. The lines of credit on behalf of the Government of India, the buyer's credit under the National Export Insurance Account, overseas investment finance to enable Indian companies to target overseas markets through setting up a local presence as a joint venture or a subsidiary, term loans for capital expenditure, and so on. In regions where development is relatively slower to penetrate, our efforts have enabled several grassroots enterprises to realize their ambitions and establish themselves in parts of the world that they had scarcely imagined to be within their reach. We have also launched an export facilitation portal, Exim Mitra, literally a friend of exporters and importers, in January 2017. This portal offers a diverse range of information, advisory, and support services to help exporters. Let me take a moment now to introduce our chief guest for this session, Dr. K. Elangovan. Dr. Elangovan is the Principal Secretary with the Department of Industries and Non-Resident Keralite Affairs of the Government of Kerala. Dr. Elangovan is a postgraduate in medical sciences with over 28 years of experience in the Indian Administrative Service. He has had vast experience in diverse fields like healthcare administration, industrial promotion, development administration, tourism development, port management, transport administration, public sector institutions, and very interestingly, overseas marketing of Indian products. His areas of special interest include health, human resource development, and corporate management. He holds a PhD from the IIT Madras in the field of performance evaluation in healthcare institutions, and having served as secretary in the Department of Health and Family Welfare of the Government of Kerala, he has deep insights into the management of public healthcare institutions and program implementation in the health sector of India. Dr. Elangovan's expertise includes policy advocacy, strategy formulation, implementation of programs, and monitoring and evaluation. He has also been a member of the crisis management group for managing the current ongoing COVID-19 pandemic in Kerala, and I'm sure he has played a signal role in the excellent performance of the state of Kerala. His presence with us today is a testimony of the Government of Kerala's willingness to create a robust framework for exports in the state and nudge exports to a high growth trajectory. I would like to extend Exim Bank's very warm and heartfelt thanks to Dr. Elangovan for all his support and cooperation in this study, as well as for being with us today. Let me end by hoping that this session will serve as an opportunity for us to reflect on the strategies to reinforce the links between manufacturing, agriculture, global value chains, trade and investments in Kerala. I sincerely hope that our efforts in creating more awareness about pertinent issues related to exports from Kerala Facilitating discourse among stakeholders through such webinars and other outreach initiatives will help to create a roadmap for boosting exports from the state. Once again, a very warm welcome to all participants on this call and participants on this webinar, particularly Dr. Elangovan, and I now have pleasure in inviting Dr. Elangovan to please deliver his special address. Dr. Elangovan, over to you, please.
My many thanks to the Exim Bank and to the team that has made this study. Now, my special address, I would like to highlight the major features of the changes that is taking place in Kerala in today's context, and then try to link up how it is going to enhance exports from the state of Kerala in the next few years. Let me say at the outset, with a bit of confession, that Kerala has been fighting a negative image across. Let me also say with conviction that this is the time. Let me also say with conviction that this is the time that the state has embraced radical changes, both in policy formulations and procedural simplification for industries to basically grow and thrive. This is the story I want you to listen, because this is the story that everyone is keen to hear. At the same time, not many people understand. When you hear of Kerala, there are 5 distinct things that comes to your mind. After all, Kerala is known as a leader in the social sector development with a huge indices, be it gender equality, be it female empowerment, be it literacy, be it the health sector, education sector, public administration, and innovation. While the first 3 are by and large well known, the last 2 has been our achievement in the last few years. The public administration, PAR, an independent objective assessment, stationed in Bangalore, has been ranking Kerala as #1 state in terms of administering the public affairs efficiently, with an excellent law and order situations, complete peace in public life. Innovation, not many people would know the story of Startup Mission. Kerala was the first state to start a startup mission with more than 2,000 incubating companies in Cochin. These 2 things has given us an edge, an advantage when you talk about industrial potential in Kerala in the recent past. Ladies and gentlemen, let me make again one more confession. While this is such a big social bubble, social capital is a big bubble, has it really translated into economic capital or economic activity? We feel that there's a huge disconnect. Whatever advantages we have been experiencing in social sector has not been translating in economic activity, in economic size. That is a disconnect. That's the reason why you see lots of people migrate outside Kerala for employment. That's why Mr. David mentioned about the service exports. We are the single largest exporter of human resources to Middle East and elsewhere in the country. Not to speak of those migration outside India, even among other states, Kerala contributes a huge chunk of IT professionals in Bengaluru, in China, in Hyderabad. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, this is the disconnect which we have noticed, and this is the opportunity we are unfolding before all the people, that Kerala is poised to arrest this migration and provide employment opportunities for people within the state by means of increasing the investments. Government has taken very clear policies on investment-friendly policies in the last 3 years. We have enacted 3 legislations. Probably first time in the country, an omnibus legislation amending and erstwhile 7 acts was passed by the legislature of Kerala unanimously. All the 7 acts which relate to issuance of the industrial licensing was amended with the 3 objectives. 1. All industrial licensing should be simplified. The number of documents to obtain a license shall be reduced. Just to quote one, the request for obtaining a LT connection of electricity involved submission of 7 documents that was made into 2. So the first dimension was that simplification of documentations. Second was basically time zones or timelines. All the erstwhile acts had no time zones or time limitations. But this new amendment called Kerala Investment Facilitation Act 2018 has brought in a time dimension saying within a stipulated time of 30 days, the license is not given. It is deemed to be given. So deemed licenses are become now legally approved licenses. And the third important element in this amendment is that we have transferred all these citizen government or entrepreneur government interface from a physical environment to an electronic platform. By launching a software called K-Swift, we basically rationalized, revolutionized, and simplified all the interaction between the government, rather with the government. Today, anybody can apply license sitting in his drawing room and get it out. Second major intervention, what we have done is industrial parks. All of us will agree that getting a land, and going and siting a land, buying a land, making all conversions, all permissions would be a cumbersome exercise. So government in its policy in 2016 has said the new policy would say that state will do all this exercise of identifying suitable land, buying it, developing it in industrial plots or in standard design factories, giving them security, common physical infrastructures, including ETPs. So today an entrepreneur in Kerala can come and have 2 models. If he wants a space, he can choose the plug and play. If he wants the land, he can come and develop, he can come and construct his plant and do it. And similarly, as I said, industrial infrastructures in terms of roadways and railways. See, probably Kerala is the only state with the highest density of rail lines and roadways. When I was health secretary a few years back, I realized how is that Kerala has got lowest maternal mortality rate. To my very pleasant surprise, I discovered that any complicated labor in any remote corner of the state, people are able to reach them in a major city hospital in half an hour's time, thanks to the roads. That is the reason why the pregnant mother does not die in Kerala, unlike in many parts of India, where accessibility itself is a problem. So the state is so well developed with the motorable road, railways, and gentlemen, 2 huge seaport, one already there, that is called Cochin Port, one more coming up, that is Adani's Port, and with 4 international airports, industrial infrastructure is already there in place for you. I'm sorry, this slide is slightly cluttered, but this is just repetition of what Mr. David has mentioned. So I will not go in detail. Just to give you a feel that our export baskets is not as diversified as it should be. We are more into natural products, we are more into agro industries, except that we export a lot of gold and jewelry into it. This is the decision, this is the conscious decision which government of Kerala has taken to diversify this basket. It's just to basically buttress the point that transshipment cargoes in this part of country is coming down, thanks to mother vessels coming and calling on Cochin Port Trust. More and more mother vessels are coming in. Now, we have already commissioned a feasibility study for establishing 4 mega logistic parks with the purpose of aggregating the cargoes so that these port, both the airport and the seaport, could have lesser transshipment cargoes. More mainline vessels can come and pick them up. This is just to show that our exports goes right from west to east. and north to south. We are not in a particular select part of the globe. In fact, UAE, by virtue of having the largest diaspora from Kerala, is become a natural and single largest importing country of Indian products, mainly from Kerala. We also have US, Japan, Saudi Arabia, Germany, you name all the developed countries, both in the Europe and in Far East, Kerala's share is very much there. Now, just to re-emphasize the point that Kerala is a growing economy, it grows much more than the nation's average, thanks to that disposable income what Kerala people have more in number. Now, one story which I would like to flag here is that we have grown at 11.3% in manufacturing sector. Well, the base could be smaller, but the rate of growth has been quite expensive, very impressive. Never ever in the history of Kerala that manufacturing sector has grown 2 digits, 11.3% as per the economic survey released by a state planning board. Now, our GSDP is growing at 7.5, as I said earlier. Now, the other side, on the right-hand side, you have got 4 major measures for calling ourselves as a proactive government. I spoke about the Kerala Investment Facilitation Act. Now I'll speak about the Kerala Single Window Board and Industrial Township Act. This is the act which you are now giving huge importance to. State Single Window Board is a single window board headed by the Chief Secretary of the state, meets every month, and that has got the power to issue license. Please understand, this is not a recommendatory body. If the usual departments or divisions are not able to dispose higher level, the highest level, headed by the Chief Secretary, and Industry Secretary is the Vice Chairman, consists of all the secretaries of the department concerned, issues approval. It is not out of place if I say that in the last 18 months alone, 29 projects worth the extent of 3,650 crores have been approved for starting economic activity. That's a huge one. We're going still more, bit more. Now, if anyone comes with a large piece of land, or even if the government finds large piece of land, we'll make it that Township Act. The Industrial Township Act is a foreign body or a foreign territory within Kerala. The SPV or the company that owns this park will have every power under the acts to issue licenses, building rules, everything. There will be no interference with local bodies or any state government. Gentlemen, the last one is Kerala MSME Facilitation Act 2019. What we have done here is we have completely eliminated the physical touch points, and we said that from the questioning model or from investigation model of issuing licenses, we'll go on a trust model. What does it mean? It means that the entrepreneur envisaging or planning to open an enterprise has to certify, has to file an affidavit, give an undertaking on the net that I am not violating any of the rules of the land, laws of the land. Keeping that prima facie as an evidence on a trust-based model, the computer generates an acknowledgement certificate after 7 clicks. That is as good as an industrial license. The routine course he has to apply and get within 3 years the regular licenses. Therefore, what we have done here is there is no delay in the beginning or to begin the project. We have seen it is the beginning that is a problem. Here we said we give a headway. Any violations, of course, found out will be penalized as the checks and balances. And I'm very happy to say, within 6 months, 2,500 certificates have been taken out from the computers, worth 1,771 crores. Ladies and gentlemen, these are all the recent happenings in Kerala. Now let's come to export-specific issues. I don't want to repeat. We are the closest to the international maritime lines. We have about 689 kilometers of coastline. with the 18 small ports. These small ports can be transshipment ports or coastal ports. You can also have huge coastal movement coming up. Kerala has one more advantage of inland waterways to move the cargo from remote areas to the major ports. A thing which you see in China, we can replicate in a very small scale in Kerala also. Government has taken a clear view and is pumping in a lot of money to develop inland waterways for movement of cargoes and for tourism purposes. Now we have taken a very strategic decision in the context of COVID-19 that states, in fact, this pandemic has actually given us a huge insight into our strengths, if not weaknesses. We found out that we have a huge public healthcare infrastructure. We find that the health-seeking behavior of people of Kerala is far higher. All these things are translating into a very effective way COVID is managed. Now, not only that, the skills of people in public healthcare, the kind of people you have who are highly educated, highly skilled, today looking for employment outside Kerala, are ready to look inside and ready to stay back. So we said that life sciences, medical devices, pharma, food processing, electronic manufacturing, aviation, defense, space, these are the natural areas where Kerala has got huge advantage at the states. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not going to extend my talk. I'll end with another two more slides. I want to say what are the basic key offerings of the state. As I said, industrial parks, you don't need to worry about all frivolous things. You just have to come, put up your plant, and start manufacturing. One of the latest, rather latent discovery of Kerala is that the people, the workforce, the human resource is found to be extremely skillful and extremely talented. Now, this is not my words. These are the words from a Japanese entrepreneur who has put up a plant in Kerala running successfully for the last 15 years. In his own words, he said two more things. He said Kerala has the lowest attrition rate. Today, aspiring and ambitious youth keep hopping from place to place. But international entrepreneurs' experience in Kerala shows that the loyalty factor is quite high. So lowest attrition rate and low cost of living compared to many other cities in the country. English is very beautifully spoken, easily understood. People are basically skillable. These are the key advantage for the state of Kerala to stimulate manufacturing for export markets. Just to recap, gems and jewelry already existing, agro processing. We have two mega parks coming up in Kerala, one for the fruits and cereals and spices, other one exclusively for marine products. Japanese are exploring the possibility of doing a deep sea fishing to have a tuna processing. When Honorable CM went to Japan, Japanese investors were so keen that Kerala coast is still not fully exploited. A huge harvest of tuna fish, and now, in fact, already talks are on to have a joint venture so that they can do this tuna fishing and marine processing. Now, even South Korea was very keen to import the seafoods from India. A team of importers from Korea called Koima, they visited us. We have shown them many plants. They're extremely happy. Once the seafood marine processing park comes up completely, we'll have a huge scope of exporting marine products even to the West. Life sciences has been a natural advantage of Kerala. We are going to have a generic pharmacy, that is a generic medicine production park. This is going to really give a lot of insights and access to the West in terms of supplying generic medicines. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to end by saying that Exim Bank has done this wonderful study. I'm very happy that they've chosen Kerala. I'm very happy that they've recognized that Kerala is changing and changing for the better and changing in a much higher pace. What we have made in a study, we're very keen to watch the highlights of a presentation, and the Department of Industries will certainly look into those recommendations and to see that whatever best we could do to get this further up, we're certainly there at your disposal. And I invite the members of industry to visit Kerala anytime soon after the severity of the pandemic is over, for you to understand that seeing is believing. Kerala is changing for the better. With these few words, I thank Exim Bank, Mr. David and his entire team, as well as all the participants for having attending this webinar and showing me so much of patience and time and listening to me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. We'll now be releasing the study by Exim Bank promoting exports from Kerala, insights and policy perspectives. The soft copy of the study is freely available for download on our website. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Janvi from Exim Bank. I'll be making a brief presentation on the study, which was just released. Moving on to the export scenario. The study analyzes the performance of merchandise exports and services exports from Kerala during the recent period. Our analysis indicates that there was a dip in exports during 2014-15, which was largely on account of weakening economic activity in the major trade partners of the state, as also some supply side constraints in the major export items for the state. But thereafter, there has been a consistent growth in merchandise exports from Kerala. In fact, over the past 3 years, FY17 to FY19, there has been a double-digit growth in merchandise exports from Kerala. If we look at the commodity composition, the share of jewelry made of gold and other precious metals is nearly 60%. So that we can say that there's some commodity concentration in the exports basket of Kerala. Other major products which are exported from Kerala are marine products, petroleum products, spices, cashew, ready-made garments. In several agro-based products, Kerala has a very high share in India's overall exports. The predominance of cash crops in the agriculture production of Kerala is also evident in its export basket. If you look at the table on your screen, Kerala accounted for nearly 63% of the total India's exports of natural rubber. It also accounted for close to 47% of the cashew exports from India. Some other sectors where Kerala has a very high share in India's exports are floor covering of jute, gold and other precious metal jewelry, vegetable oils, coir and coir products, spices, tea, marine products. If you look in terms of the export destinations, there's again some sort of a market concentration. UAE was the largest destination for exports from Kerala in 2018-19, accounting for nearly 63% of the total merchandise exports from Kerala. The top 10 export destinations account for more than 80% of the total merchandise exports from Kerala. The study has calculated market concentration index and product concentration index for all states and UTs in India. And we find that Kerala ranks 7th in the market concentration index and 3rd in the product concentration index in 2017-18. So clearly the export strategy should focus on diversification of both products as well as markets for exports. If you look at the services exports, tourism and IT and ITS are two most important sectors from the perspective of exports for the state. These two sectors together accounted for nearly 15,000 crore in rupee terms, the export revenues during 2018-19. If you look at the tourism sector first, the foreign tourist visits in Kerala stood at more than 10.96 lakhs in 2018. There has been a growth of 6.03% in CAGR terms during 2011 to 2018. The UK was the largest source country for the foreign tourists, and the top 5 countries accounted for nearly 45% of the foreign tourist visits to Kerala in 2018. Our analysis indicates that while growth in merchandise exports, as we noted in the earlier slides, has been quite robust, the growth in foreign exchange earnings from Kerala has moderated in the recent period. This highlights the need to identify new growth shoots in the sector and to strengthen the sector through various incentives. Coming to the IT sector, the growth in the IT sector is primarily driven by the development of Technopark, Infopark, and Cyberpark in the state. The export earnings from the IT and ITS sector was nearly 7,000 crore in 2018-19, and the sector's export earnings registered a CAGR of nearly 14.9% during the period FY14 to FY19. As Dr. Elangovan also highlighted, Kerala is among the front runners in India in terms of its healthcare services. In fact, the state is a leading performer in Niti Aayog's health index for the past 2 consecutive years. The state has a fairly robust healthcare infrastructure with nearly 1470 hospitals in the state. And a lot of these hospitals also have accreditations from JCI and NABH. This robust healthcare infrastructure attracts a lot of medical tourists into the state. Various traditional systems of medicine like Ayurveda and Siddha have also led to a lot of medical tourists coming into the state, and which has led to foreign exchange earnings from the state. Now, coming to the challenges and strategies, we did a primary survey and also conducted extensive desk research to identify the challenges for exports in Kerala, and we have recommended certain strategies for alleviating these challenges. Before we begin with the specific recommendations, we try to understand the potential for exports from the state and the target which could be set for an export strategy. Our analysis indicates that Kerala has an untapped merchandise export potential of nearly $6.7 billion. Realizing this potential can help the state reach nearly $16.5 billion of merchandise exports. According to the study, the motive of Kerala's export strategy should be to increase the share of exports, both merchandise and services combined, to the current national average of 19%. Currently for Kerala, it is around 14.5%. It should at least reach the national average of 19% and further strive towards reaching a higher level of 25% in line with the national target for 2024-25. The export strategy should also attempt to achieve a greater share of services in the exports from Kerala, as there is substantial potential for growth across several services categories. In an optimistic scenario, we estimate that exports from Kerala could reach around 4.5% of the total India's exports by 2024-25. In this scenario, the export from the state could be around $54.7 billion or 3.67 trillion rupees. Merchandise exports will account for nearly $41 billion of exports, which is 2.75 trillion rupees, and services exports will account for the remaining $13.7 billion of exports. So these are the proposed targets for 2024-25, which could be achieved through a medium to long-term export strategy for the state. The study then identifies focused products from the point of export strategy. A granular analysis of the products or where the state has comparative advantage has been undertaken, and these products have been matched with their global import demand. So basically, we have looked at both the supply capabilities from the state as well as the demand scenario for these products in the international market. Based on these two considerations, we have arrived at 4 categories of products, of which 2 are important from the point of view of export strategy. First is the product champions, which are the products where Kerala's exports are competitive and the import demand for these products is increasing in the international market. These are the low-hanging fruits, and the export strategy could tap opportunities in these markets, in these products, in the short to medium term. The second category of products are the underachievers. Now, in underachievers, although there is a growing import demand, the exports currently from Kerala are not competitive in these products. So there are more incentives more incentives are needed for encouraging growth in these underachiever segment, and these will be important from the point of view of medium to long-term achievement of goals. A total 66 products which are currently exported from Kerala have been classified in these 4 categories. We have only Kerala currently exports more than 2,000 products, but we have only taken into consideration those products which have a share of at least 0.1% in Kerala's exports, so as to ensure that there is some supply side capabilities in the state. Among these 66 products, there are 49 which are product champions and there are 2 which are underachievers. In these 49 products, the world import is nearly $331.4 billion, implying that there remains substantial scope for tapping the international market for these products. The identified product champions have been categorized into 21 major product groups. Nearly 7 out of the 49 products are in the category of marine products. However, if we see in value terms, precious stones and metals is the largest category. If we look at the underachievers, instruments and medical appliances and machinery and mechanical appliances are the sectors where the state needs to focus. As Dr. Ilangovan already mentioned, electronics is already a focus sector for the state. So Kerala is definitely headed in the right direction, but perhaps more incentives can be provided in the machinery and mechanical appliances segment as well. Our assessment of the export destinations from Kerala vis-a-vis the top importers of the product champion sectors indicate that Kerala is currently not exporting to some of the top global importers in the product champion categories. Even when it is exporting to the top global importers, the value of those imports is low. This can be an indication of the non-tariff barriers which exist in the top global markets, and the focus of the export strategy should be on ensuring that the exports from Kerala meet the standards and technical regulations which are required to access these top import markets. As we mentioned earlier, Exim Bank conducted a survey of exporters from Kerala. I would like to encapsulate the key takeaways from the survey, the major challenges which are faced by companies in exporting from Kerala. Nearly 29% of the respondents believe that marketing constraints is a challenge, largely on account of lack of credible information about buyers, difficulty in finding buyers, cost of marketing, and packaging for exports. Another 22% exporters also consider competition and risks in exporting as a major barrier. Standards, rules, and regulations is also an important concern, followed by infrastructure related issues, financial constraints, and technology related challenges. Export strategy of the state should focus on alleviating these challenges, and we will come back to these challenges once we discuss the strategies in detail. The export strategy of the state could be built upon 6 essential dimensions: diversification to focus products and markets, infrastructure leverage and strengthening, capacity building, fiscal incentives, export promotion campaign, and institutional streamlining. Let us look at each of these one by one. We noted earlier that there is significant concentration in the products which are exported from Kerala. One of the efficient ways to expand the exports basket would be to look at product diversification based on value addition. The study has identified high value added products across several focus sectors. I'll go one by one. Agriculture and allied sector. Currently, we note that most of the agriculture products which are exported from the state are in the unprocessed segment. There's very little processing which happens in terms of agriculture sector, and there's a need to focus on these high value added processed food and processed agro products. For example, Kerala currently exports a lot of cereals, but in terms of cereal proportions, the share is very low. Even when it is exporting cereal proportions, it is exporting to markets such as UAE and not focusing on the larger markets of Asia and Europe. So there's a need to focus more on prepared cereals and also focusing on the larger markets in Asia and Europe. Marine products is again a very important sector for the state. There are opportunities for enhancing exports to markets such as Japan, South Korea, and Russia for exports of frozen fish, and for exports of cuttlefish and squid. Countries like France, Netherlands, Malaysia, Portugal can be targeted. Organic fish farming can also be promoted in the sector, as it can lead to premium pricing, and exporters can fetch higher value on organic products, organic marine products. The study also recommends that the state may also consider earmarking traditional fishing systems such as Pokali or coal lands exclusively for the native species of shrimp, such as black tiger shrimp and white shrimps, because they have a very huge niche market globally. We noted earlier that natural rubber is an important produce and export product for the state. There is need for diversification towards higher value added rubber products. There exists export potential of nearly $0.18 billion in rubber and plastic products from Kerala. Key Asian markets can be targeted for exports of these products. Kerala is an important exporter of spices as well. It could diversify in the area of spice oleoresins. Oleoresins are basically products which have high potency of active components that enable their usage in small dosages, while also leading to standardization in taste and consistency in flavor. There's currently a market of $1.4 billion for global oleoresins. So this is one area where diversification can happen. Cashew. Currently, a lot of cashew from the state is exported in the form of kernels. We suggest that opportunities can be explored in the area of cashew butter, which is increasingly emerging as a substitute for peanut butter. And there's a growing international market for this product. If we look in terms of manufacturing, textile is an important sector for the state. Handloom products, coir products are currently exported from the state. But one area which can be focused is technical textiles. Coir and coir products per se are low value items. They do not fetch a lot of value. But leveraging these raw material base, utilizing these raw material base for producing technical textiles can get higher margins for exports. These technical textiles are used in wide range of applications: automotive, medical, geotextile, industrial textile. And the market is currently estimated at $220 billion. So rather than exporting the low value added coir and coir manufacturers, the exporters and firms could increasingly focus on their technical textile segment. There is substantial opportunity in the pharmaceutical sector. The recent COVID-19 crisis has opened substantial opportunities in this sector. Currently, the untapped export potential for Kerala in the pharmaceutical sector is very low at around $15.08 million only. But if you look from an all India level, the untapped potential is $7.3 billion. And the central government has announced a lot of production linked incentive schemes, which can be utilized by the firms and exporters in Kerala. And they can set up more capacities in bulk drugs and formulations. As I noted earlier, electronics, electrical machinery, and equipment are underachiever segments for the state of Kerala. And these are high technology intensive sectors, and some of these sectors are already priority areas for the government of Kerala. And impetus is being provided to these sectors under the Make in Kerala program. These sectors are very important going forward because as against agriculture products and resource intensive manufacturers, their prices do not fluctuate very rapidly, and they impart some sort of resilience to the entire exports basket. So focus on these high technology products will be very important. In the services sector, tourism has been a major source of revenue for the state. We suggest that opportunities could be explored in festival tourism, culinary tourism. There's already some amount of impetus which is given to these type of tourism as well, but currently the scale is not very large. We also suggest that hospitals in Kerala could collaborate with foreign medical institutions for referrals and knowledge and personnel exchange. Hospitals should also collaborate with global insurance agencies for inclusion of their medical tourism services in the health insurance packages of the agencies. Transport infrastructures plays a very vital role in trade logistics, and it is very important from the point of view of export competitiveness, and it has been recognized as a challenge for exports in the state. As you can see from the figures on the screen, Kerala already has a very large base of transport infrastructure, but there is some lacuna which can be addressed. An essential first step would be infusing more capital expenditures toward expansion and widening of routes. Now, the industrial policy of Kerala has already laid emphasis on establishment of connectivity. However, only 3.6% of the total budgeted expenditure for the state in 2020-21 was allocated for the construction and development of roads and bridges. This is against an average expenditure of 4.2% by all the states and UTs in India. So there's a need to strengthen the access roads to the ports and also widen the road infrastructure. Besides roadways, as Dr. Langavan also highlighted, inland waterways are an active mode of transportation in Kerala. The state could adopt a PPP model for strengthening the existing network of waterways. The state could also focus on strengthening the performance and operation of minor ports to optimize trade and bring the points of exports closer to the production centers. For this, a fund can be set up for development and maintenance of export infrastructure in the non-major ports. The fund could focus on managing and upgrading gantry cranes, berths, waterways, roads, storage facilities, communication equipment, and computer systems. Kerala is among the top producers of agro-based products. So clearly the warehousing and cold storage infrastructure needs to be quite robust. Our study indicates that warehousing capacity is adequate in most of the districts in the state, but there is need for development of more capacities in the districts of Alpuza and Palakkad. Other than that, the warehousing capacity is quite sufficient in the state. Another thing which we noticed in the study is that the annual average capacity utilization of the seafood processing units in Kerala is fairly low at around 25 to 30% currently. There's need for leveraging more of these processing units so that greater value can be realized from the exports of marine products. The study also recommends development of a multimodal cold chain network in the state, as also leveraging the IT-enabled services to manage harvesting and logistics infrastructure. The state has a total of 12 container freight stations and 2 inland container depots. This is low as compared to other coastal states such as Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. Comparison of the district-wise gross value added and the number of ICD CFS in the various districts of Kerala indicate that Thrissur and Palakkad are two districts which contribute substantially to the production from Kerala, but they are underserviced in terms of ICDs or any minor intermediate port. So future CFS and ICDs can be planned and developed in these two districts. We also realize that the capacity utilization of existing CFS and ICD is also an issue, and there is a need to enhance capital investments in essential equipment such as cranes and reach stackers to ensure that greater capacity utilization is there in the existing CFS and ICDs. The study also recommends setting up airport freight stations, starting with Cochin and Thiruvananthapuram airports. From the financing part, the state government can leverage the support provided by the central government under the Trade Infrastructure for Export scheme for development of the trade enabling infrastructure such as ICD, CFS, warehousing, and other trade enabling infrastructures. If you look at the services sector, the study recommends development of a center of excellence for animation, visual effects, gaming, and comics sector in collaboration with the Society for AVGC Industries in Kerala. In the tourism sector, the study analyzes the foreign tourist visits and the district-wise accommodation units in Kerala. And we find that in the top 5 districts, which receive around 92% of the foreign tourist visits in Kerala, these districts account for only 64% of the total accommodation units in Kerala. So there is a need for encouraging more development of more hotel units in these districts. The study also notes that the source countries for Kerala are typically advanced economies which have an aging population. To encourage more tourist inflows from these advanced economies, we would need more senior and disabled friendly infrastructure in the tourist destination. Kerala has already transformed 80 destinations into senior and disabled friendly destinations, but there is a need to expedite the transformation of other destinations in Kerala as well. In the post-pandemic world, there will also be a need to reassure the hygiene and security infrastructure through investments in things like public washrooms, hand sanitizer dispensers, contactless security infrastructure, among others. Coming to the capacity building, Kerala has a total of 32 geographical identifications across agriculture and handicraft sectors. To reap the benefits of the GI status, the logo and name of the GI brand needs to be developed and marketed. For this, Kerala needs to develop a mechanism to ensure that all the products which are marketed under these GI brands meet certain minimum specific standards. To ensure that the quality and uniqueness of GI products which are marketed under these brands is maintained, a certification body could perhaps be set up, which could provide certificate of authenticity to producers and exporters of these GI products. The state can also identify more GI products, especially in the food sector. As I mentioned earlier, more than tariffs, it is the non-tariff barriers which is posing a problem for exporters now. To ensure that the standards and regulations and quality requirements are met, the state can organize training and awareness drives in the major production hubs in Kerala. Apart from this, the government could also consider refund of expenses incurred for obtaining certifications like CE or CCC or GMP. These kind of certifications, a refund of say 50% can be provided to the exporting unit subject to a certain limit. The state can also reimburse certain percentage of the expense incurred by hospitals in getting accreditations like JCI, which are important when from the view of attracting medical tourists. From the point of view of encouraging high technology intensive exports, the state government can provide support to exporters in submission of applications under various central government schemes. Now, central government scheme, there are several such schemes such as TAFP, which enable exporters to acquire technology. But it requires, this is a tedious process. The application is a tedious process. The state governments therefore can provide assistance to the exporters to apply under these programs. Moreover, they can also meet a certain percentage of the cost of the technology acquisition, because these programs, they provide support only to the extent of say 25% or 30%. Another 10 or 20% support can be provided by the state government for such technology acquisitions. Kerala can also encourage its hospitals to tie up with foreign health institutions and hospitals by entering into mutual referral agreements with these institutions. There's also need to create awareness among exporters about various financial and risk mitigation products. This can be done through seminars and workshops. Also, Kerala government could encourage exporters to access trade finance related information from various portals. For example, the Exim Mitra portal, which has been developed by Exim Bank, can be utilized by the exporters for accessing trade finance facilities. Now, a lot of states provide fiscal incentives to exporters as well. For example, states such as Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, and Andhra Pradesh, all these states provide some sort of fiscal incentives to exporters. Kerala government can also consider providing such fiscal incentives in the form of capital subsidy or grants in the priority sectors. It can also consider providing reimbursement of electricity duty in key export-oriented sectors, especially in the product champion sectors. Coming to the export promotion campaign, to encourage and acknowledge the traditional exporters in Kerala, the state already has a reward program for best performers in the handloom sector. Such export awards need to be instituted in other key sectors as well, especially the product champion sectors which have been identified in the study. Export promotion efforts should also focus on the capacity building of various industrial clusters in the state. Industrial clusters have a lot of benefit. They generate economies of scale. They can lead to generation of exportable surplus. So there's a need to develop a mechanism for assessment of the existing clusters, identification of the issues in these clusters, and then taking relevant capacity building activities to strengthen these industrial clusters. A brand equity fund can also be set up to build globally competitive brands for products originating from Kerala. This fund can assist in marketing local products in the international arena with the help of export-related brochures, interactive CDs, etc. We are aware that the central government has a market development assistance scheme. It is a very successful scheme which has led to a lot of exporters accessing new markets. The state government can also put in place a state level market development assistance scheme for exporters in the high value added and technology intensive sectors. The state government can also collaborate with the Ministry of Tourism and Ayush for providing marketing assistance to entities engaged in niche tourism sectors such as wellness tourism. Finally, the last recommendation is with respect to the institutional streamlining. Now, the overall institutional ecosystem in Kerala needs to be framed in a manner that facilitates the various schemes proposed for exports, allows regular monitoring of the targets, and thereby propels the state to a higher export trajectory. To streamline the activities pertaining to export promotion, the study recommends setting up a Kerala Export Promotion Council under the Department of Industries (DOK) with the participation of state government, exporters, and industry. The KEPC can have two wings, the merchandise wing and the services wing, which in turn can be composed of the sectoral committee and the regional committee. The sectoral committee would basically manage the delivery of the export promotion products, while the regional committee would work with the trade and commerce bodies located in India and abroad. The scope of work of the sectoral committee could be focused on applications for new GIs, assessing applications under the proposed brand equity fund, providing support to exporters to access schemes such as technology acquisition program of the Government of India. The regional committee, on the other hand, can focus on efforts which lead to market diversification, such as the proposed market development assistance program, reimbursement of costs for certifications, which is required for accessing various markets. An Export Connect division can also be there within the KEPC, which would offer critical export-related support services. These would comprise of subject matter experts in both merchandise and services sector. The IT division would look after the dissemination of important information pertaining to exports to various stakeholders. The overall function could be integrated through a program management unit. The program management unit would undertake continuous monitoring of export targets on a periodical basis, so that prompt corrective actions can be taken should there be a deviation from the projected targets. So these are the key recommendations of the export strategy. We welcome your questions on the study. Both Exim Bank and Dr. K. Elangovan from the Department of Industries are available for any questions which you may have. Okay, we have a question from Mr. Arif Bashar. How is the export potential for spice oleoresins from Kerala? As I mentioned during the presentation as well, the international market for spice oleoresins is quite large, around $1 to $4 billion. So currently the exports from Kerala is very limited of spice oleoresins, primarily due to the export of spices in the raw form or semi-processed form. We have another question from Hari Kumar Madhavan. In Kerala, finding resources for export of agro products is very difficult. Hence, we had to depend on other states. This requires financial services.
Yeah, I think, can I take that question?
Yeah, I would request Dr. K. Elangovan to.
Yeah, I'm audible. Can I take that question?
Please address this question. If I may repeat the question again. In Kerala, finding resources for export of agro products is very difficult. Hence, we had to depend on other state. This requires financial service. So can we have your comments on this?
Yes. No, this gentleman has raised an important question. Finding resources is something which he is not talking about. There are two kinds of resources. If it's a raw material which he's talking about, we have recently launched e-market, that is e-Kerala markets. It's a basically B2B platform. It's basically for sourcing raw material as a backward linkage and also to find market as a forward linkage. More than 1,327 companies are already members. So if you can go to that website, if you go to the portal, you will find your suppliers, you'll find your buyers. That is regarding the raw material or finding the market. Now, with regard to financial services resources, now we have basically revamped our credit policy also from the state non-banking institutions called Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation. All along, we've been giving only about 35 crores as basically as upper limit, but now it has been increased to 100 crores. A single institution, a firm can get up to 100 crores because we know about the cost escalation in the recent past, and we are pumping in a lot of money into these organizations, both Kerala Financial Corporation under the Ministry of Finance, as well as Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation and the Ministry of Industries in the state level rather, are now willing to fund any projects. If the gentleman has any question, he can only write to us in this Investment Facilitation Center, IFC, or he can email to us in KSIDC, that is Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation. We'll take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hari Kumar Madhavan, you can also access the Exim Mitra portal. We have information related to agro products on the portal, as also we have a dedicated section for trade finance products. So you can probably look at our website as well. Apart from that, APIDA also has very exhaustive information on agro products. So you can look at their website as well. We also have several requests for the report. As I have mentioned earlier as well, the report is freely available for download on our website, eximbankindia.in. You can go to the website and freely download the report. After 5 minutes, you can probably look at the website. It will be available for download. We have another question from Mr. Arif Bashar. Thoughts on Latin American market from Kerala. The exports from Kerala are currently quite concentrated. As I mentioned, 63% of exports are to UAE only. And the reach to Latin American markets is very low. Even if you look from all India perspective, the access in the Latin American market is currently very less, but there exists huge potential. There exist huge opportunities. As we have mentioned in our study, certain market development assistance schemes from the central government is already providing, but also from the state government can help access some of the markets where there is a lot of potential, but the reach has currently been limited. If we have no more questions, we can proceed with the vote of thanks.
Dr. Elangovan, Principal Secretary, Department of Industries and Commerce, and in Okra, Government of Kerala. Managing Director, Exim Bank, Mr. David Daskina, ladies and gentlemen, participants. As we come to the close of today's webinar on potential for enhancing exports from Kerala, it gives me great pleasure to propose this vote of thanks. On behalf of Export-Import Bank of India and the participants, I express my gratitude to Dr. Ilangovan, Principal Secretary, Department of Industries and Commerce and NOCRA, Government of Kerala, for kindly consenting to be here with us today and delivering an insightful address. Given your extensive involvement at the policy and implementation level, your learned insights provided a wider perspective on diversified issues pertaining to Kerala's international trade. Sir, your gracious presence in today's webinar is a source of great encouragement to us, and it bears the testimony to the Government of Kerala's deep commitment to strengthen the export sector in the state. I also take this opportunity to extend our sincere thanks to the august audience of representatives from industry, academia for attending this seminar. We deeply value your active participation during the question and answer session. Last but not least, I would like to express my appreciation for the Exim Bank team for their hard work in putting this event together. We hope that the articulative presentation by Exim Bank and also the study can provide new insights and impetus to across the board engagement for realization the vision of local for global, and has provided a lot of food for thought to all the stakeholders. The copy of the publication will be uploaded on our website soon, and those interested could freely download this publication. Once again, I thank all of you for your participation in today's webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.